Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
We're hearing, this might be the most insane hearing I've actually attended. I've only been in Congress for a year and a half.
All right, this interaction really made me angry. Marjorie Taylor Greene is being disrespectful and disgraceful on the House floor, throwing away all the rules and all the decorum that the House is supposed to represent, and instead being theatrical and performative for her Fox News fan base. See, Dr. Fauci was testifying publicly in front of Congress today about COVID, about its origins, and other controversies that the Republicans wanted to talk about. And instead of being treated respectfully, they allow Marjorie Taylor Greene to make up conspiracy theories, refuse to call Dr. Fauci a doctor, and even refuse to let him speak. Thankfully, we saw other Democrats standing up for Dr. Fauci, but I'm going to play this clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene for you guys, and just know this is not how our government is supposed to function. In fact, it should be a badge of honor for Dr. Fauci to have Marjorie Taylor Greene attacking him, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is really the bottom of the barrel as far as our politicians go. But here's this clip.
Especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection. Objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time, Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Mr. Chairman,
of order.
Just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in
Gentlelady
prison.
will suspend. The gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, is this what we have become? Is this what we have devolved into? No decorum.
You know what? We can do that hearing about the poor men that were injected with syphilis, because I support you in that. That's horrific. And this government that does things like that to Americans doesn't have decorum to the American people.
Mr. Chairman,
The gentleman is out of
point of regular order, please.
The gentleman is out of order.
Decorum.
How is it possible for one human being to be as insufferable as Marjorie Taylor Greene is? I'm not even joking here. I literally struggle to listen to her. Not only because everything she says is a complete lie, but because she can't stop herself from being a disrespectful lunatic on the House floor. How does somebody like this get elected into Congress? Dr. Fauci has served our country in one form or another since 1969. He has been serving the public health interests of our country for almost 60 years, and here comes Marjorie Taylor Greene disrespecting and undermining his years of practicing medicine and his years of serving the public in America. It's incredibly, incredibly disgraceful. Here's a clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that Dr. Fauci should be prosecuted because of his insistence that people wear masks and take vaccines. And can I just point out, this is a part of the social contract in America. You protect other citizens by taking a vaccine and wearing a mask in the same way that you protect other citizens by not drunk driving and by wearing your seatbelt. If we tried to pass seatbelt laws today, I genuinely think Republicans would not let it get passed. They'd say, oh, I know a scenario where somebody had a seatbelt on and they still died. Or they'd say, oh, I know a scenario where somebody had no seatbelt on and they lived. They'd rely on anecdotal experiences and try to stop any sort of seatbelt law from being passed, even if we were able to demonstrate that in general wearing a seatbelt does help. But watch this clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene further embarrassing herself.
Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no answer.
Yes, it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent. But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting. and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science that where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6
said.
feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You
I
made it
didn't
up as
say
you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on. But you also told the American people they had to distance by 6 feet. They had to wear masks. But let's also in plastic bubbles because of your science, your repulsive, evil science. And let's go back to your very own email. You said earlier you don't use email. Oh, you do. Right here. This is your own email, where you said the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. This is your email. This is your own words. But yet children all over America were forced to wear masks. Healthy children forced to wear masks, muzzled in their schools. And then they were forced to learn from home because of your so-called science and your medical suggestions, while you and all your cronies get paid from Big Pharma. You know that what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
Mr. Chairman, I have another point of order.
I recognize Ms. Dingell.
Just want to make sure the record is clear. Dr. Fauci testified that he did not use his personal email for official business. He did not say he did not use email. And I think today, this particular has been full of lies and disregard and disrespect, and we need to stick to facts.
Thank you. The gentlelady's time had expired before the point of order. I now recognize Mr. Garcia from California for 5.
Absolutely wild, unhinged stuff coming from Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying that Dr. Fauci not only should be prosecuted, but should serve jail time for crimes against humanity. I mean, can you imagine how brain dead you have to be to think that this is a good thing to say on national television? Marjorie Taylor Greene is beyond gone. But I just want to say that a lot of the problems Republicans had with Dr. Fauci stemmed from a misunderstanding of the way science works as a whole. So as the coronavirus pandemic progressed and we learned more and more, our understanding of ways to combat it changed, because that is how science works. Science is not some set in stone piece of law. It is an ever-changing construct that evolves as our understanding does. So for example, early on in the pandemic, Dr. Fauci said something to the effect of, we shouldn't all be going out and buying masks. And the reason he said that is because he was worried there wouldn't be enough masks available for medical personnel. So he was saying, if you're the average person, right now the best move is not to go out and buy a bunch of masks and stockpile them. And this was really early on in the pandemic, the same month the pandemic was announced. And about a month or two later, as the science evolved, as our understanding evolved, and as we got more resources, Dr. Fauci then said, okay, now you can go out and get masks en masse. Everybody can go out. Everybody should be wearing a mask. And because Republicans are so anti-intellectual or anti-science, they don't understand that things can change over time. So they took this as Dr. Fauci lying or tricking us or being part of the deep state. They think this was all some sort of con, when in reality, Dr. Fauci was simply updating our response based on our updated understanding. But here's a clip of Representative Robert Garcia from California defending Dr. Fauci as he should. Watch this clip.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Fauci, I am so sorry you just had to sit through that. That was completely irresponsible. Quite frankly, we're hearing, this might be the most insane hearing I've actually attended. I've only been in Congress for a year and a half, but I am so sorry that you are subjected to those level of attacks and insanity. Your quote-unquote so-called science that the gentlewoman is referring to has saved millions of lives in this country and around the world, and I want to thank you for that. I also think it's important to note that, in my opinion, is that you are an American hero, and your team has done more to save lives than all 435 members of this body on both sides of the aisle. You guys have worked not just during this pandemic, but over time to save millions of lives in this country and across the world. We lost 1.1 million American lives. 1.1 million American lives, 7 million lives around the world. We were having 9/11-like events, death events daily in this country, losing 4,000, 5,000 people every single day. I was mayor during the time of the pandemic. I remember how painful it was to close businesses, to shut down schools, but how quickly we forget the pain and how scared we were as a country. We were washing our groceries as they were coming in. We were keeping seniors at a distance. The tragedy that was happening in our nursing homes. Thousands of people were dying a day, and you and your team of the best and the brightest scientists in this country and the world were doing everything that you could and working night and day to save more and more of those lives. A lot of my colleagues know that my mom was a healthcare worker during the pandemic. My mom died of COVID. My stepfather died of COVID. I lost both of my parents during the pandemic. So I take this very personally, especially when other members of this body who are tasked to be responsible and to actually help the American people attack medical professionals like you and across the world. Vaccines, a vaccine that you and your team helped foster, have saved millions of American lives. These attacks are ridiculous.
Very well said by Representative Garcia. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. If you made it this far in the video, comment a blue heart and I will see it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, have a great day.